Hi, I'm Neil Sackmary.
Hi, I'm State Trooper Sean Hagstrom with the Nevada State Police Highway Patrol Division, PEIO. Please stay tuned for the next episode of Trooper Talk.
And together, we can make a difference. Here we are live at the 360 Vegas studios with this edition of Trooper Talk. We have some special guests today. We have Trooper Hagstrom here, we have Sergeant Keene, and we have Sergeant Clifton. So we understand that we got to see some really cool devices and things like this.
Absolutely.
Johnny got to spend time. And so start off with, please tell us, what is your primary position at Nevada State Police?
I work in the Commercial Enforcement Office. I'm stationed in headquarters, which is located in Carson, but my office is in Las Vegas. And what I do is I'm part of the MIXAP, which is the Motor Carrier Safety Program, where the federal funds come in and then we run and put on the programs that the Nevada State Police use to enforce commercial vehicle statutes and regulations. So I'm part of that crew that keeps that running. We, as we'll see, we'll do the van. We do overtime projects, our strike forces, when we locate spots that need to be special attention for crashes, because that is our main goal, is highway safety with commercial vehicles. So crash reduction and fatal reductions.
And so with highway safety, you know, a lot of people don't really understand that the Nevada State Police takes commercial vehicles and what it is that they do, that they regulate that.
That's correct.
They check.
Yep.
They make sure.
Yep.
They weigh. They
Correct.
have all these different things. And so talk to us a little bit about the commercial enforcement end of things.
So the Nevada State Police is the lead agency in the state of Nevada for commercial vehicle enforcement. And what that means is the governor's office has identified our agency to be in charge of all commercial vehicle enforcement. Now we will reach out to local agencies that are interested and we'll get them trained up to where they can also do commercial vehicle enforcement, but they do it under our umbrella. So what the state police does is we have specially trained troopers in each region of the state that are commercial vehicle inspectors. So they go through a series of classes. We do Part A, which is a driver and vehicle, or initially it's just the driver and the driver's paperwork. Then we do Part B, which is vehicle, so vehicle inspections, where you actually see them crawling underneath the truck. We're looking at brakes, air lines, drive lines, frames, chassis, all the mechanical parts of a truck. We do hazmat enforcement, so we send troopers to a week-long class where they learn about hazmat transportation so that we ensure that all the trucks that carry hazmat are doing it as safely and according to the regulations. We do cargo tank enforcement, so they're inspecting the cargo tanks that you see driving down the road, gasoline haulers, acid haulers, hot tar, things like that. We do nuclear and radiological monitoring as well as part of our program. So we have troopers that are specially trained in nuclear and radiological inspections. With the test site in Nevada, we do see some loads come through, so we are involved in the transportation of that and the inspection of those vehicles.
Pretty cool stuff, right?
It's really cool.
Yeah. That's why we wanted to get them on here, Neil, to kind of explain what they do. Absolutely.
It's very intriguing. You know what I'm saying? And so the thing is that with each person that comes on, we're able to learn a little bit about the Nevada State Police, and like I always joke with Sergeant Clifton, you know, you're not just sitting behind a desk.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like going,
Right.
oh yeah, this is what I want to do
Right.
today, and I'm going to lunch now. You
Correct.
know what I mean?
Yep.
Your role is very, very important.
Correct.
And it's very crucial.
Correct.
Because when the motoring public is traveling down the road, we need to ensure that the motoring public is doing the smog check and inspections and all this type of stuff, but the motor vehicle as well. And so we've had people come on from the team, and they're fantastic.
Right.
Yeah, we have
You know what
Michelle
I'm
from
saying?
CVS.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
CVSI, the commercial vehicle
She
inspector.
gives him candy. Don't
Yes.
let him fool you.
She gives
You know?
all of us candy.
Right.
Yeah, because his office is next to
Right,
mine.
no.
And also, Neil, you were in our office.
Yes.
And you notice it's kind of bare there in the commercial enforcement office because those guys are at different check sites, like
all
at the
over the
Sloan
state.
check site, or they might be working, like you said, somewhere else in the state at the time. So they're always busy. They got so many inspections they have to do a month by federal regulations that, you know, they keep everything going. And just the training alone, we've discussed that before in an earlier show. These guys go through intensive training
Correct.
just through the commercial, just to be a commercial enforcement inspectors.
So not only are they troopers, they start out as troopers. Anybody that comes to commercial, their first job, they're just road troops. So they go out and they spend 5 to 10 years working the road, learning the nuances of being a trooper, and then they're hand selected to come to commercial. This is a very unique team. It takes a very special person to be in it. So we pick the right person and then we train them. Just to get to a basic level to where you can go out and work on your own, you're probably looking at up to 4 additional weeks of training. Just the schools, and then you have to come out and do almost like a ride along with an experienced commercial officer to learn what actual inspections look like and what to look for.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's a big job too, because you know what? That's why they also have the civilian personnel, because we've always talked about, hey,
Right.
we're hiring in these different fields too, but they also go out and assist our troopers, and you know, they're like almost like certified mechanics. They're looking at the brakes and looking at all the necessities that have safe travel on the roadways with our commercial trucks every day.
And those are commercial vehicle safety inspectors, and we have a couple different groups of them. So we have one that is attached to the local division, so they're here in Las Vegas, and they do school buses. We're mandated by state law, the Nevada State Police, to do school bus inspections. So every school bus you see on the road has been inspected by one of our commercial vehicle safety inspectors. They're civilian employees that obtain the same amount of training as we do. The only difference is they're not sworn, they're civilian, but their role is probably more crucial than ours because they assist us in every way possible. They take care of all the school buses for us. That's one group. We have a second group that are federal inspectors. They work for us. They're state employees. They're CVSIs, but they do all the federal paperwork that's required. They help companies get started. We have a safety audit group that when you initially start your company, they're going to contact you and help you get everything set up. And then we have one that's a compliance review that if your company's not following the rules, then that person will pull your paperwork and start to inspect you and help give you guidance in where you can improve your business to be compliant with all the federal regulations.
I believe that we just had like the taxi, somebody contacted us about the taxi authority, and they wanted to find out how they could do their own inspections. Well, they had to go through us first, and they were able to designate how to get that done and what kind of schooling they had to do for that company.
So, and we put on all the training through the Commercial Motor Vehicle Safety Alliance, CVSA. They're the ones that fund all this training, and then we have our inspectors who are instructors who go and put it on for whoever needs it. We've done the Taxi Cab Authority. We're getting ready to do a local authority, a local police department here in Las Vegas. We have some up in Washoe County. There's some other counties that have some interest in it because they're looking to where can we help impact public safety. And it's more than just normal traffic stops. The average traffic officer has some minimal training in commercial motor vehicles, but that's a career within a career. You have the trooper career, and then you can have a commercial motor vehicle trooper career as well. And that's an entirely different branch. And once you go that way, the training is so intense and it's so time consuming, you really need to stay there and master that craft.
And you can stay there forever, right?
Once you get there, as long as you meet the minimum requirements, as Trooper Hagstrom has stated. So we have our commercial vehicle safety plan, which we put together on a 3-year cycle. And in that, we state, here's what we're going to do for the state of Nevada to the federal government so that they'll fund our program. Part of that is the number of inspections that we do. So in the state of Nevada, we average about 25,000 commercial motor vehicle inspections per year with 28 personnel. So that's about 1,000 inspections per person, including all sick, vacation, annual training, all of the time that's taken off. We average it out about 107 inspections per month minimum. That's just to keep where we need to be for our people to meet our safety plan. And then all the other things that Las Vegas troops and P&P personnel are tasked with. Everything, every special event that comes to town, we're involved in, they're involved in. You know, we get pulled in all the different ways for all the reasons that I'm sure Trooper Hagstrom has spoken about before.
Hey, and I got to bring one thing up too. When he's talking about, you know, the commercial gets involved with other special events and everything, this guy's actually a motor too. And, you know, when we have the presidential or elected officials coming into town, he's riding in the motorcades with them. You know what I mean? So he's he's like a jack of all trades. You know what I mean? He's done it all. And I do got to give him some kudos too, because he's fantastic. I'm so glad that he came on the program. But he's actually left and retired from Wyoming Highway Patrol. He was a lieutenant prior to coming here. So you know how we always talk about other people coming to agencies, you know, if they wanted to lateral and everything else. Right here is one of those persons that you could talk to because he was a former lieutenant with the Wyoming Highway Patrol. which and we love having him here. But, you know, we tell him, hey, he should move up to lieutenant. He goes, oh, I'm fine as a sergeant for right now. But he has a lot on his plate because you know he's not only doing the commercial stuff, but he's working with headquarters, and he's always got stuff coming in. I mean, this guy's always on phone calls, he's nonstop. He's almost as busy as I am. I think almost. So
there's a fight for whose door is closed most often during the
Absolutely.
day during Teams calls. But you know, some of the things we do is part of headquarters is you're tasked with whatever they give you. So it's legislative session right now. So we've been involved in the legislative session. There's tons of question about commercial motor vehicles because not a lot of people understand them. They know it carries everything we touch. Everything we touch in a day has been carried by a truck at one point or another. The key to this is we're trying to get those trucks from A to B in the safest manner possible. Cars and trucks don't mix. Car drivers, especially in Vegas, they're in a hurry. You know, it's a 24-hour-a-day city, and there's this constant drumming. You know, got to get things done. Got to get things done. Life is that way. Well, when you add a car to a truck doesn't work that way. A truck is not on that time schedule. It's a much larger vehicle. It doesn't respond the same way a car does. It's slow. It's lumbering almost. And you have to be aware that when you get around a truck, they can't see you for the most part. And I don't care if you're right. If you get involved in a crash with a truck, you're going to be wrong. Because it's they jokingly say the lug nut rules. The more lug nuts, the more right they are. Because even when they're wrong, you still lose because they outweigh you by 10, 20, 30 times. So people need to keep that in mind when they get around trucks. Is be generous. Remember, these people are carrying everything we use every day. Give them a break. Like, just give a little bit of room. Don't be in such a hurry. Don't cut them off. They can't stop as fast. It's just not possible.
Yeah. Sergeant Clifton, I mean, you know, people do things and they play around with these trucks, and sometimes, you know, there can be dire consequences, and sometimes those people end up on the wrong side of the law because they are at fault, not speaking about anything in particular, but just in generalist terms. And so when people do things that are wrong in that way and they end up in front of a court, you know, that judge can say, you know, you're either going to prison, you know, we talked the last time about the, what was it that you said, like the mandatory 10 years, you know, for some of these things. And so it's like, you know, there's no playing around. Your life is over.
And the rules are different for commercial drivers. Good friend of mine's a bus driver for the CCSD. He complains about the inspections.
Oh, I bet he does.
It takes time.
They're very thorough.
They're very thorough.
have to be because you're
transporting
kids.
kids.
You're transporting kids.
This is the future.
And that's why the penalties can be greater when you have these commercial driver's licenses and you're carrying 80,000 pounds of cargo. I mean, good grief, like you said, you can get in a car just absolutely wiped out. You can go on YouTube and watch these trucks just blow up cars, and it's safety is paramount, and that's why it is taken so seriously by both the federal government and the state government.
Correct.
Of these rules need to be followed, and if these rules aren't followed, there can be serious consequences, which will not only cost you your license, your livelihood, but it could be your freedom too, right? We were talking off camera beforehand about theft.
Cargo theft. Yeah.
Cargo theft.
Huge issue.
I didn't even really think about that. And that can, if I'm wrong, that could be a federal issue too if you're crossing state lines.
It could be, depending on the load too. So then you're coming from my world into his world.
Yeah.
Where I catch you with the load that doesn't belong to you, it's theft. You know, so it's felony theft. We catch you with it. Now we have the federal side of it, plus we have the state side of it. So they're going to come from me, put them into the court system, and now he's dealing with them.
Yeah.
And all within the Nevada State Police.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Right. And so I liked how you said, you know, that you know, if somebody is messing up, that you'll try to speak to them. You know what I mean? That you know, in this type of way. And
we want to help people.
It's sort of the same thing for the parole and probation, right? They're not there to throw you against the wall, but you know, if you break the law while you're in their area, there's just no getting around it, right?
There isn't. I mean, we as an agency, state police, we work hand in hand with each other a lot of times. You know, he's joking about the presidential motorcade. he's in the front and I'm blocking the road for him.
Correct.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So I'm
we all work together on
the last time the president was here, which was a couple
Just
weeks
a couple
ago.
weeks, right after the election.
Right after the election, he was here. I was sitting on the corner of Sahara and 15, blocking off the road, and much to my help, actually, this truck driver pulls up to make a right-hand turn on the on-ramp. I'm like, you're gonna have to wait, and he was not going to make a U-turn. He was waiting, right? And actually, it worked out really good because he helped me out. He blocked the lane for me. I was like, my hero right there.
Oh, right.
Because I didn't tell you this last week. I was thinking about it, but I'm sitting there. This is crazy. I have my car. It's got the lights on it, right? And I'm start pulling up the cones because I need to open it because the president's gone by, right? And people would just start coming at me. I'm like, I haven't even pulled up all the cones yet, and you're trying to just go past me. I ended up yelling at this car saying, put it in park right there and you wait right there. Right. Because I was mad that you're coming within this close to me as I'm trying to pull up cones. Like, really? And that's not my world. I don't live in the traffic world all the time. I live in the parole probation world, right? But it's astounding how people just don't pay attention as drivers. And you start talking about, that's just cars. If you get truck drivers that don't pay attention, serious consequences, which can lead to serious either death, injury, and then coming to see me afterwards.
He talks about, working in the car world. Same for us when we go into their world to help them. I'm not used to being in people's houses. I work the highways.
Right.
I'm used to the sound of cars. I can tell you what's coming. I can tell you when things are going to go south by the sound of the tires on the roadway. I go into a house. I have no idea what these people are like. I've not met them before. I don't know who's good, who's bad. So that's where the partnership comes in, is that you work with each other enough. You go on these different calls. They may have something or I have somebody stopped and I'm calling them saying, hey, can you check they're on probation. What do you want to do with them? Here's what I got. We're working through their file and whether we want to detain them and possibly take them to jail. Or he's calling me going, hey, I've got a guy. I'm looking for him. He's in a truck. We have systems where we can track certain things as trucks pass through different areas of the state where we can tell you, yes, this truck has passed through here. So we can work with each other and give each other a helping hand.
Yeah. And we have plenty of people on supervision who are truck drivers.
Correct.
And it's not always because I'm not a certified vehicle inspector and things like that. I'll go to their house and their truck's parked out front, right? And I don't know what's in there. I don't know what they're carrying. And at the same time, too, I don't even know if they're allowed to drive a truck. They might have a commercial enforcement or a commercial driver's license, but I'm not familiar with all the regulations. So if I have a question, I'm on the phone. I'll call them and say, hey, what do you think about this? Right? And it's a direct line.
Right.
It's
and that's what's so good about the Nevada State Police is we're one big family.
Right.
And like we've talked about this numerous times, if we have any questions or anything, we can contact anybody from any of our divisions, and they're more than willing to help us out or lead us in the right way, or even send somebody out, because sometimes we'll have a commercial vehicle crash and we'll notify our commercial units to come out, and they'll send a commercial unit to do an inspection to make sure that truck was properly with all mechanically sound and all the safety prior to the crash. They're able to do all those inspections. So that really helps us out in doing the crash in the long run. So
and I was going to say, and so this is the fantastic thing about the Nevada State Police, right? So if somebody wants to join, right?
Absolutely.
They can join in the civilian aspect. They
Correct.
can join in the sworn aspect.
Yep.
Oh, Sergeant Clean, you can tell everybody to join the Nevada State Police. Since you do all these other things, now you can be part of the recruitment.
Recruiting,
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Yeah,
Just look right there and just tell everybody. You know what I mean? If they want to come and hang out with you after a long standing, right, they can, right?
So I retired out of 22 years out of the state of Wyoming, where I came from. I was raised there, but I am battle born. I was born here in Las Vegas, moved away as a small child, and I came home for my family. I wanted to live in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is an incredible city. I live just a little bit south of town. I'm still well within the valley, but I don't feel like I live in Las Vegas. I live in a nice, rural, quiet neighborhood. I couldn't be happier with where I am. And then I came to the Nevada State Police, and what I found is a very welcoming group. Even with my knowledge, they accepted that and then have given me some of the most incredible opportunities. I've had more fun and done more things in the 10 years I've been here than I did in the 22 years in Wyoming. And I wouldn't change a thing, not one thing.
Without getting too specific, you live where? You still live sort of out of town?
I live just south of, kind of south central, south of the Beltway.
Okay.
Just right in the middle of town, and it's a nice, quiet neighborhood. I can walk down the block and see the Strip.
Yeah.
I can hear the city early in the mornings, when we're out walking, but I don't feel like I live in a metropolitan area of over 2 million people. Yeah. You just don't feel it in Nevada. That's the beauty of Nevada. For being a huge city, it's still very western, very small town, which is what I love about being here.
We're still the Wild West.
We are still the Wild
Well,
West.
speaking of Wild West, last week we had Sergeant Clifton's ranch.
I saw the.
Well, they're on the opposite ends.
Yeah,
See, he's
right.
south.
You know what I'm
and
saying?
He's more on the north.
And
You know what I
so
mean?
He's truly rural. He's probably got the better deal of it.
Right.
He does.
He certainly was out there with his tractor and his hay,
I
and
was,
you know
yeah.
what I'm
Horses.
saying.
I
And-
saw his picture on his tractor, and I was quite jealous.
Right, you know what
Yeah.
I'm
I
saying.
want a tractor.
We'll get you out there.
Right, you know what I'm saying? We love to talk. It's very important.
Yep.
But we also love to show the photos so people understand what it is that we're
correct.
doing. Because I saw the photo. I don't normally look at the photos before, but I saw the photo that Sergeant Trooper Hagstrom sent to me, and I was like, "What is this thing?"
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So
Looks like a great camper van is what it
let's
looks like.
let's see what we got here.
Good morning. This is Sergeant Keene with the Nevada Highway Patrol. Today we're out at our Sloan check site showing our new DriveWise Smart Roadside van. The van is designed with equipment inside of it to give us the ability to rapidly screen multiple vehicles as they travel down the highway. So what we're looking for is we have a license plate reader which is out in front of the van, which reads the license plate as the truck goes by. It runs that license plate, gives us a return on it. As the vehicle passes the side of the van, there's a small camera that reads the DOT number. Once it reads the DOT number, it runs that, puts it up on the screen, and then compares the license plate to the DOT number and tells us if the license plate belongs to that company or not. We have a huge problem with people stealing DOT numbers and using that to gain access to critical loads that they're not supposed to have. So we use that technology to confirm that the truck is in fact registered to the company. If it's not, it could be a reason why we pull the truck in to check it. Also, as the truck goes by, we have a thermal imaging camera, which is off the back, which looks at the heat signature off of a vehicle. So what we're looking for when we're doing that is we're checking tires. Are the tires hot? A tire that's in contact with the ground and rolling will create friction, which creates heat. If we get a hot tire next to a cold tire, we know a couple things are going on. Either the tire is flat, which means it has no pressure in it. It has low pressure, which means it could be in violation. Size and weight is a huge issue in the state of Nevada, so we're looking for tires that are underinflated, that are not the correct size, that are not making contact with the ground, so that the weight is equally distributed.
Huge issue. Weight is a big thing. And if you've driven the roads in Nevada, you feel those ruts.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's from improper loads. They're too heavy. The tires are not inflated properly. So the state of Nevada was kind enough to buy us some scales that split. If you look at the rear of a truck, it has 4 tires, 2 on each side. We have scales now that when you roll the tires up onto, you can split the weight between the tires, and we can see if both tires are carrying the same amount of weight. So if you have a low or underinflated tire on the inside, it's not carrying the same amount of weight as the outside. All of that weight's been transferred to the outside tire now. So we have a violation there where that tire is only rated for so much weight. Because if you don't do that, that tire just constantly is getting a tremendous amount of heat and friction and will cause a failure. And how many times have we seen what we call gators laying out on the road, which is a tire tread from a commercial motor vehicle. And people are swerving to miss that, and that is dangerous in and
All
of
the
itself.
time.
All the time. So when we're out there, a lot of this, when you start really looking at it and we start tying it all together, there's a complete package here. Is we're trying to keep these trucks as safe as possible, keep the drivers safe, make sure that they're qualified to be driving, they don't have a drug and alcohol violation that Sergeant Clifton may be dealing with, that their weight is correct as the way it's supposed to be. So this van, what this van does for us, it's a mobile check site. It's like a port of entry. So we take it everywhere in the state of Nevada. We can park it alongside the road, set up all of our equipment, and we can scan 1,000 trucks a day easily. Where if I have to do it by hand, I might get a dozen. This is doing thousands as they pass by looking for paperwork and administrative errors and mechanical errors with the heat signature, plus us just looking at it. I can look at a truck and I can start to see things that are wrong. As it's passed me by, I can hear things that are not right. So we'll start flagging those trucks in. So we used this day, we were up just outside the check site on the ramp to the check site. If we'd have found a problem, we could have radioed ahead. A troop would have jumped out, grabbed that truck, pull it in. And then we confirm everything with a visual inspection. Everything is, no violations are written out of this van. This just detects that there's an anomaly of some sort, whether it's a paperwork issue, license plate issue, heat signature issue, and then we pull it in and we do an actual physical inspection. So anything that's found by this van is confirmed by a trooper or a CVSI, Commercial Vehicle Safety Inspector, prior to anything being done with it.
And so you look at this, and so you look at this thing, and it looks like just a regular van
Yeah,
with all the sophisticated
absolutely.
stuff. Now, does the truck, is it traveling on the highway?
No.
So it's off to the side,
parked
and
just
then
like-
it's maybe
yep.
going 20 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour past you or something,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
Is-
So
would that be accurate?
and we can deploy this on the roadway at highway speed. The difference is the thermal camera is really hard to you can get a kind of a frontal shot coming at you, but to track with them at 65 miles an hour is impossible. But what we can do though is we can still use the license plate reader and the DOT reader, and actually part of that too is a hazmat placard reader, and it'll pop up and tell us if there's a hazmat load on there as well. We can park that alongside the highway, just go out on the 15, park it, and we can scan trucks as they come by us at a high rate of speed, and then have troopers down the road, and then we can radio ahead and have those trucks that are deemed necessary inspection, have them pulled in and checked.
Never even thought of this.
Yeah.
I really,
Right? I mean, you're sitting over there looking just like I was, like, and you're like, really? Like, this is like,
Yeah.
this is cool stuff.
I mean, I know in my head from being with the state police for 13 years now, like, yeah, the commercial guys, they weigh the trucks,
Right.
they check their logs, okay,
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know all this stuff. But
Right.
one thing that I would compare it to, like, we as cops, right, it's our responsibility on a daily basis to make sure that our equipment is functional, that we're functional, our cars are functional, right? Like, I need to have bullets in my gun, I need to have a cartridge in my taser, right? Things like that. Because for public safety, right, if my taser doesn't work and I need it, it don't work, what do I have to go to? A baton, a spray, maybe my gun, right? Like, and that could cause more harm than need be, right? So if you're a trucker, for example, it's your responsibility to check your truck every day,
Absolutely.
right? And make sure that you're not going to cause undue harm to someone having to swerve out of the way of your tire. Like, blowouts happen, that's the thing, right? But like, if it's preventable, then prevent it,
Right.
And that's kind of, he's talking about violations, and you might think in your head, oh, that's kind of petty because it might be just a little away, but there's a reason for it.
Right.
There's an absolute reason for that being the law or the regulation, whatever it is, because it's safety. I don't want to get run over by a truck. I don't want to get hit by a tire flying off because lug nuts are loose, right? Like, I think you check lug nuts too.
We
don't
do.
you?
We do. We do check gloves. Usually on my gloves, as I do inspections, I'll wear the gloves, the 2 fingers out that I check, and then those gloves actually end up in my car as my tire changing gloves. Because I've worn them out from grabbing everything and touching. It's inspecting a truck really is a game of lava. Everything's hot, everything's messy, everything's dangerous, everything's moving. There's chemicals involved, there's hazardous materials involved, there's shifted loads involved. Commercial trucks, you have the things that we go through. They go into a house, they don't know what they're getting into. We make a traffic stop, we don't know what we're getting into. But you would think inspecting a truck that's not moving with the driver that you've had a cordial conversation with would be safe. It's not. There are so many things that can go wrong underneath the truck. The rear brakes on a truck, they have a spring in them that would probably launch my car if it came uncontained. And what that is, that's the parking brake. You remove the air and the spring expands. That's the parking brake on a truck. Well, those are caged. And if you get a lot of trucks from the East Coast where they use salt on the roadways, those housings are corroded by the salt. And eventually they're going to come loose. Something's going to happen. They're going to fail. Well, if I'm under the truck when that thing fails, if I have the driver apply the brakes to measure the brakes, because I'll go under, I'll mark all the brakes with a soapstone, and then I'll have the driver apply pressure to the brakes, then I measure the travel, the push rod travel. I need to make sure it's not too far, that the brake shoes are not worn out so that there's no effective braking. Well, if I'm underneath there when he steps on the brakes and that can gives way, I'm toast. Or if fuel spills out of the truck, or if I get something in my eyes. I've been burned more times than I can count, reaching around exhaust, touching the rear axles, drive lines, things that just generate tremendous amounts of heat. And in fact, Johnny has videos where we can see some of the heat that's underneath the truck through the thermal camera. I don't think people understand that every day these trucks go down the road 1,000 miles a day. If you put 1,000 miles a day on your car, it would be wore out. These trucks are no different. They're constantly in motion to give us the things that we need to continue our lives. And as Sergeant Clifton mentioned, it is absolutely critical that those drivers do the pre-trip inspection. And we check that. That's part of our inspection is did they mark on their logbooks pre-trip inspection done? And that's a driver, and if a good drivers, and there are so many more good drivers than bad drivers. I just want to get that out there. The truck driving community is a phenomenal community. A lot of these people just like to be free. They're totally free on the road. They're their own boss. They can come and go as they please. They're fantastic people. They very seldom give us problems. And in the state of Nevada, we're really, really lucky. We have a great program, so we're catching a lot of these issues early. A lot of the trucks we see have no problems at all.
Can I add something onto
Yeah,
that too?
please do.
Well, and one of the reasons that we have better safety practices is a lot of these companies give incentives to their drivers, but not only that, a lot of the trucks have gone to the electronic logs. So it's easier for them to look
Yes.
it up instead. It used to be paperwork. And back in the days, when we checked
could have a
commercial
couple
trucks, they'd have a
logs.
couple logbooks. They'd be fudging their times and trying to make money and this, where now it's electronic logs. And they can go in and they can check it. And the company also does a check too, because the company wants safety as a priority. They actually, it saves them money by not having issues and problems. So when these truck drivers, they start, all these guys drive over millions of miles, and they get awards for that, and they also get incentive pay for having, say how would you say it? No, not tickets or anything. It's just a safe driver
Safe driver.
practices.
Oh, safe driver.
So when they don't get in crashes and everything, and they hit like 1 million or 2 million miles, they'll get like bonuses,
recognized.
or they'll get recognized by their company. And what I really wanted to bring up was about the electronic logbooks, because that really saves in the
does.
company's safety too.
So what'll
we
happen
can go
now,
on
there's
that.
a couple programs that are going on that Nevada, and here's the great part, Nevada was one of the first 3 states in the nation to try out with DriveWise, which is a company that designs this van, to try out an inspection program on a test run. We did it, we found a break in it, we broke it, we gave it back to them. They've grown that program to where now we're testing one of the original 4 states to test a level 8 inspection, which what happens is that truck goes down the road, it passes into our geofence check site. Its information is beamed to a computer, and a computer goes through everything, checks it, and if everything is good, that truck is given a clean driver inspection. So logbook, electronic logbook, paperwork check, everything's good. It gets a good clean inspection, and it's allowed to continue to pass through the check site. So the key for us as commercial inspectors is to continue these trucks moving down the road with little to no slowdown. As we pull them off the ramp to check them, we got to get them off the highway, get them through the check site safely, then back onto the highway safely. As you know, driving in this town, getting a semi back onto the road is not an easy task, and it's not quick. It takes time to get them up to speed. So if we can roll them through a check site, check them driver, most crashes caused in this country by trucks are driver error, truck driver's error. Going too fast, they're sleepy, they're tired, they're not qualified to drive, they've had their license suspended, all of these things. So if we can check all that without ever stopping the truck, we're going to prevent way more crashes than by the physical inspection of the truck.
It's interesting. I have a question for you. You don't
Okay.
have to answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. What do you think about a driverless truck?
Wow, and that's in Texas right now. So I said on
Because I saw like one of these states
Yes.
had the driverless truck,
Yes.
and they drive down the road by somebody just drive from point A to point B, and
So I can give you a little bit of an educated information. So I go to CVS conference twice a year. Part of that are autonomous trucks, and they're in Texas right now, big time. Texas is the pilot program. So what happens is a company is chosen. They go through the same training as our inspectors. So these trucks are inspected before they leave the dock. If the truck is not perfect, it doesn't leave. It gets an inspection right before it leaves. It's loaded. It's on a very specific route. They don't interact with that truck because they just want it going straight. They don't want to pull it off the road, so the truck will continue on to its destination, where it's then again inspected. It's constantly monitored. I'm intrigued, but I'm cautious. Because I don't understand enough about autonomous trucks.
Right.
We see the cars in towns all the time. I think I've seen the little square shoebox style taxis now, and I'm fascinated that there's nobody in it. I
Yeah.
want to get one and go for a ride. I want to see what it's like.
I asked Johnny to buy one, but they won't,
He won't do it.
They won't sell it.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
Right.
So I'm encouraged because I think it saves time and effort because those trucks can run 24 hours a day as long as they pass the physical inspection. They can run, so it'll hopefully drive our prices down. You know, but I'm also leery because there's no human interaction.
It takes away jobs too.
It does.
You
It
gotta
does
think
take
about
away
that, too.
jobs,
Yeah.
but it takes away jobs and creates jobs. So I don't know what the net gain or net loss would be overall, but Texas is having a very successful test program right now. We're in constant contact with them. DriveWise is part of this program that's going on down there. So I talk to them probably twice a month. With other programs that I'm involved in, other national level committees that I sit on, where we're constantly, this field is blowing up right now.
Yeah.
And autonomous trucks, the technology that's out there, what we figured is the whole goal is if we keep the trucks moving, we're better off.
Yeah.
You know,
Just
and
think what's going to happen in 20 years from now. You know what I mean? We're going to look
man.
back and like,
Well-
they're going to look like, man, they were like dinosaurs back. You know what I mean? It's just,
100%.
it's crazy.
Sergeant
So-
Clifton, do they have autonomous parole and probation?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
It'll be like robots, machines.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean,
Checking it out. So.
You know what's funny about that, Neil, is that they're actually, I don't want to
yeah.
say there's autonomous officers, but there's plenty of states that use just computer check-ins.
Yeah.
That's all it is for their supervision. And
Oh.
I personally see the value, but I also see the flaw in that, right?
like low-level offenders would be good.
Yeah, for low offenders, and we actually do that here in our state. Some of our they're called low-risk supervision, right? They check in one time a year in our office, and then 3 times a year on the computer. So
just to say, here's where I'm at, or
yeah,
whatever.
and so they're going on. It's an app called Catalyst. They go on Catalyst on their phone. They put in their information. They type everything out and send it. The officer gets it, or in this case, it's actually a civilian specialist who gets it, and they verify all the information. If they need to call them and say, hey, why haven't you done X, Y, and Z? They can do that. They can send reminders and text, things like that. And it's basically like a virtual PO, essentially. And that's kind of the way we're going for our low-level offenders. But I was thinking, you're asking about these autonomous trucks, right? Like these autonomous cars.
Farming?
You could.
That's a thing.
Right.
That John Deere is doing that right now.
Well,
But
they've been doing that for a while.
yeah,
Most of the fields are plowed with GPS anyway.
They are
my
doing that.
father-in-law is a farmer, so
yeah.
GPS.
They put it in with
Yeah,
the,
they
with
just sit there
the
and
combine,
and
it
watch.
pretty much runs itself.
Yeah.
So I was driving my friend's car from here to San Diego a couple years ago, right? And it's an electric vehicle. It's the biggest electric manufacturer, right? And there was something going on in front of us where cars are braking. It's nighttime. I'm not really seeing that. The car starts to brake on its own. They're so much smarter than we as humans are. They can detect more with their sensors. They see things so far ahead that we can't. And so when you're talking about a commercial truck, right, something that has a human behind the wheel, why not have those safety features in it? Even if it still has a human inside, but the truck can drive itself, great.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's safer for everyone. And I know it's hard for me to trust technology like that. Like
Because it's so new. You don't know what's going to happen.
right.
The
you
beauty
just-
of
you don't know.
technology is it doesn't get impatient. It's told to drive 55 miles an hour. It drives. It doesn't know any better.
Right. No.
Where we get impatient, we're
Right.
like, I gotta go. The road's wide open. I can speed up. That truck's like, nope, 55 miles an hour. That's as
Like,
fast as I'm gonna go.
It is one reason that I
Correct.
really considered that is just because of the fact that you can see better, or the vehicle can be by satellites and all these things can certainly see better. And
I'd love to see the technology he's talking about where you've seen some of the cars will have little radar screens or night vision screens where you can see beyond your headlights to see heat signatures up above. I would love to see something like that in everyday cars.
Big safety
we
feature.
we
Like a heads-up display. in
Right
your
now, the
windshield.
cars are braking ahead of time, with the sensors.
Well,
So, you know what I mean? If somebody walks out in front, the cars automatically stop. That's great safety features for people because we've talked about it, distractive driving or not paying attention.
Correct.
That 1 second, you know what I mean?
Or-
The child runs out in the roadway,
Yeah.
it stops automatically.
or you're looking over your shoulder to change lanes, so you're doing an actual lane check.
right.
And coming from motors on a motorcycle, you have to physically check
Oh,
there's
yeah.
nobody there. So you look over, you calculate everything, you look back, traffic's now stopped in front of you.
Yes.
It happens every day on our highways, and that's a huge thing. Where if we had this kind of self-braking ability, the van that we got, it stays in its own lane. It freaked me out the first time it did it. I went to change lanes and it didn't realize that what I was doing, because I just slowly glide over, and it corrected me back into my lane. And
My
I'm like,
Mustang's set up that way too.
it was
It
very
corrects
unique
my own
feeling.
lane.
You better be careful. You're going to get pulled over. one
Yeah,
day,
I
you
will.
know what I'm saying?
I'll
Somebody's gonna
tell
get
you.
behind you. You know what I'm saying?
He drives way too slow in that car.
I have to.
Unfortunately, the motoring public drives
Yes.
too fast for him to catch him.
And I want to add one more
Yeah,
thing.
go.
A lot of the people don't understand, we've gone over a lot of reasons why we have commercial enforcement and everything. But just we touched just a little bit on just the roads, on the ruts and everything from the weight. Weight is a major problem because people don't understand just to put a mile highway in is millions of dollars. It's not cheap. So anytime when you can see where the left lanes where most of the trucks are and you got those divots there, a lot of that's overweight trucks. And with overweight becomes problems with the tires, the springs, everything. And they're actually damaging that truck even though they're driving thousands of miles all the time. That's the need for our motor vehicle to make sure everything is safe out there for everybody. And I just wanted to bring that up because people don't understand the cost factors. I mean, they're interstate commerce. We got to keep those trucks going all the time. But on the other problem, if they're not abiding by the safety rules and for everybody else, and not only that, for weight enforcement, they're tearing our roads up, which is costing millions that we could be using for other things for the state instead of using for road projects. And
That
stuff.
we have to essentially pay for.
Right,
We're all paying for it, right?
Yeah. And the one thing people forget is when we close a lane to repave it, there's restriction now that causes all the backup problems, all the queuing problems. We were in a meeting yesterday and they talked about when the UNLV shooting happened and we had part of the interstate closed. Those were millions of dollars an hour that were lost in cargo delayment and people not getting to where they're supposed to be. In the old days when I first started, it was like $1 million a day. Now it's millions, multiple millions of dollars per hour when we close a road or we delay traffic or because of a crash, we have to narrow down or construction. Those are huge costs and we're all paying for it. This is not something that companies just absorb and as good people. They pass it on to the consumer, which is normal. So we're paying more money with our roadways. If we don't take care of the roadways, products don't get where they're supposed to be. Lives are not saved. The ambulances and the fire trucks can't get where they're supposed to be. Law enforcement officers can't get where they're supposed to be, where they're needed. So people, as we interact with trucks and truck safety, as we start to think about that as a total package, as we've talked about, his role is just as important as my role. I promoted you, Sergeant Hagstrom.
Right. That's all right. You never know.
Trooper
You know what I'm
Hagstrom,
saying?
you never know. They're still chilling.
No.
What Trooper Hagstrom does with the PIO and getting this stuff out,
Right.
is huge. I've seen the Trooper Vowinkle on your show.
Yeah.
Loved it. This isn't a huge thing for people to get the chance to interact with us and hear what we do for them.
Yeah. No, it's so important. You
And
know
we
what I'm
also
saying?
discussed in the past too, for interstate commerce, if we have a major crash on the 15 or something, and it's going to be hours, guess who's getting contact? We have to contact the governor's office to let them know why that road is shut down, because now it's costing millions of dollars by the hour of not having trucks come and go throughout Vegas and throughout the United States.
Here's another program I forgot we do. We do, it's called a virtual road sign network. It's for commercial traffic. So we subscribe to a company that allows us to drop a GPS pin in an area and send messages to trucks as they enter that area that, hey, there's a road issue ahead, expect heavy traffic, road closed in 10 miles.
Oh, we should have brought that up.
We should have
brought this into
I didn't even think
yeah,
about
me
it.
either.
We did
Now
it
you
up.
have to come back again.
Well, perfect. We did it in Sparks. They had a crash. It tore up the guardrails, so they've had to narrow the roads down at night. So I have a message set up that hits at night, a mile from on each side that says, "Hey, expect a reduced lane width ahead." So we're allowing trucks. We're notifying trucks of issues way ahead of time. The lithium battery fires that took place in California. We can drop a pin in California and tell trucks, hey, to access Nevada, continue down I-40, come up the 95. Or drop a pin on I-40 and say I-15 closed ahead to Nevada, divert US 95 north. And we can start to guide these trucks to get them in and out of our state much safer.
Great technology.
Yeah,
I'm telling you,
amazing
it's
stuff.
alerting everybody
It is.
ahead of time.
It is.
So they can take, or they can pull over and save their hours, off the road.
Right.
Or
They
they're
know.
giving them alternate routes.
Yeah.
So they can avoid way before they even get to those crash scenes. So
That's cool stuff.
I
Yeah.
can see that technology eventually making its way into cars where you use any of the mapping programs where it'll tell you, hey, these companies can drop pins and say there's a crash ahead, expect major delays, reroute here, to get around. And that's what saves money, is getting people moving. Nothing's more frustrating than to be stuck in a crash with in between exits.
Or
Happens
being
to
late
me,
for work.
Late
Or
for
maybe
work.
late
yeah.
for work, right?
There's so many things that with the pressure-packed life that we live, it's constant demands on us, and driving is a dangerous thing for us to be doing, because we're distracted with everything around us. Kids in the car, the phone, what am I doing at work today? Oh, I'm late for work. Now that adds extra pressure. Then you add a truck into the mix, couple trucks, and you're trying to get around them, and they won't let you in because they can't. They got nowhere to be. They're trying to get across to get out of this mess and get where they're going. So it's this constant ebb and flow and dance that we do with trucks.
That's why we need guys like him. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
We have people
Very
that are
important.
far smarter and far better at this job than me.
No, but,
Far
but you know what?
And they're out there every day.
He's right,
crushing
though.
it.
We need a lot of people
We do.
like Keem, because these are the guys that are out in the valley and throughout our entire state that are
100%.
keeping us safe with and they're not trying to penalize trucks at all. They just want the companies to make sure that they're incurring the safety practices with them and their drivers, so they can get to point A and point B safely. And that's all we're looking at, is making sure that the public is safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many times have you seen your Amazon packages delayed? I can tell you what happened. It's rolled over in a ditch because of something went horribly wrong.
Usually around Christmas time, we
Right
get a
around
few.
Christmas, in
Yeah,
the
we
winter
got a few.
time, having worked the state of Wyoming for many, many years, there's a lot of crashes that occur because of snowy roads, and you can YouTube pile-ups on I-80, and there's just dozens of videos.
Yeah, like Sergeant Clifton said about the.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got for this one.
All right.
Speaking of the motors,
Speaking of the motor crew,
Yeah.
I know who
And
that
you know what?
is.
They're still actively going to certain areas throughout the valley. And I wanted to point some. I mean, we're still getting 102,
did they
107
pull the
speeds.
tractor trailers over? Did they
Yes.
speed?
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
they do.
Absolutely. Yep. So we had another problem. I just had the news contact me because they had some neighborhood complaints out by 159 and 160, Blue Diamond and 159 area.
Okay.
And our this is not the area, but they did put no U-turn signs in that area, and they still having problems with people like that. So we're going to have to. I'm just letting the public know that we're going to be sending the motors out there, and if
You're not gonna like what
if
happens.
you're going to be making those illegal U-turns, you're going to be getting a ticket, because we've had some complaints in those areas. So yeah, our motors. We talked numerous times, especially on the Beltway, Neil. We're still getting over 100 mile per hour in a 65 mile per hour zone, and we've talked numerous times about planning ahead. You know what I mean? If you should always leave a little bit early for work, anyways, because you never know if there's going to be crash or construction. Vegas Valley is always full of something going on, so it's always better to prepare and leave early if you can. And it gives you time to, meditate, think about work on the way in, not get in a hurry. But some of these people, their selfless acts can commit either a serious injury or possibly death with those kind of speeds and getting in a crash. So we want everybody to slow down, be at the speed limit, 65 on our beltways. But this 100 mile per hour, this is out by the 15.
Yep, that's the G.
But the problem is we're still getting these kind of speeds. It's ridiculous.
And that car all the way down the road does not see that motorcycle.
Even
right?
even in
so,
green.
So like you trying to drive and then saying, okay, I'm going to do 100 until I see the
something.
officer.
He's already
and then-
got you on the
and-
LiDAR.
And then once
Yeah.
I see the officer, then I'm going to slow down.
No, too late.
Right?
Yeah.
The game is over.
Yeah, it's shot way out there.
As you can see in the middle one, 102 miles an hour, it's at 1,530 feet away.
feet away.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's where the officer was able
Clocked them at.
to get that speed at.
And no one can see that.
No.
At
you can't-
1,000 feet, the beam of that radar is 3 feet across. It's so finite. At 1,000 feet, it's half the width of your car.
Yeah, and
So
he's putting it
people-
on that exact car, so he
We-
knows it's
we're
exactly you when
trained-
he's
yep,
watching you.
We're trained to use the front license plate, front headlights, front windshield of a vehicle. At 1,000 feet or greater, we get multiple readings. Most of the guys, as long as you hold the button down, it's a continuous reading. And they'll clock you right up to the almost get, and then he puts his thing down, lets you pass by, and brrr, out he comes.
It's like when we used to use the aircraft.
Did you see how he did that?
Oh,
Right,
he's
that's
got it all
You know what I'm
down.
saying?
That's a tripper for you right there.
Listen, he knows. He does. as you said, he's multi-talented in
Yep.
this
Yeah,
particular.
he's been around in the profession
he
for a
knows he
long
puts this
time.
thing
Yeah.
on, and that's the end of the game.
This is like a 30-year-plus
Yeah.
veteran here, so
Yeah.
you know, he's got a little more time than me, you know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, even people don't understand this LiDAR is right on. You know, it's radar. You know, it operates different. I'm not going to get into everything, but I wanted to tell you, we used to have our planes. They go up there, and it's 1,240 feet, and they're measured off on the lines, right? So, and we have signs that says patrolled by aircraft, right? So when we get up there, they have a certified timer, and from the point that starts, the white lines on the shoulder where it starts, and to the end, they can get 3 or 4 clocks. And it is so right down to the mile per hour, and it's all mathematically. So you can't beat it. So when our pilots go to court, if they want to fight the ticket, they bring in there and they show the judge mathematically exactly how fast they were going from that 1,240 feet, and then they got two other clocks on it, and it comes up to that same speed mathematically. You can't beat it. Yeah, it's time and distance. So that's where they're never wrong. I mean, you cannot, and it's on a certified timer. So it's very interesting.
And these type of activities, not specifically to any person, but they could constitute someone going to jail,
Absolutely.
and the reckless driving and all of these
This
type
may
of
be
things.
the first contact for other criminal activity. Criminals have to drive on the road. So my stop for 102 ends up with his lifetime probationer. Where
Yeah,
they're on
because it could be
probation
transporting
forever.
drugs or other
Human
problems.
trafficking, other criminal activities. They're wanted in bank robbery, homicides. I worked that district, Prim district. That's a fantastic district. Everybody's coming out of California, so you get a lot of criminal activity coming out of California into Nevada, and then back from Nevada into California. You stay very busy down there, you know, doing speeding enforcement, and then all the criminal activity that comes from those initial traffic stops. It keeps the 3 of us busy.
That's what initiates a traffic stop.
Traffic
Brings
stop-
it into everything. Yeah.
Most of the serial killers in the country that have ever been caught came off a traffic stop. That's what the initial, Ted Bundy was a great example. The initial reason they figured him out was through a traffic stop.
Well, we had Jeffries here that was
we-
famous.
yeah.
Eddie
Warren
Dutchover,
Jeffs, yeah.
Trooper
Right.
Warren
Dutchover.
Jeffs, yeah.
He pulled him over, and he was on the FBI's one and most 10.
Well,
Top
the
10.
the Oklahoma City bomber
Yeah,
was
McVeigh.
stopped for a license plate registration out of Oklahoma. I met that trooper, fantastic human being. He just said, I made a traffic stop. He had been dispatched to Oklahoma City for the bombing. They said, no, we don't need you, turn around. So he said, okay, I'm in my district, I'm gonna go to work, sees this car coming, checks the registration, it's faulty. He stops him during the contact, finds out he has a gun with no permit, arrests Timothy McVeigh, takes him to jail. The saving grace was the judge was off that day for a family emergency or a family event, so they held him another day. The FBI during that time figured out who he was, put his name out. They saw where that troop had run him on the computer, and they went down and caught him from a simple traffic stop, a registration violation. Stop.
Just registration.
Just
Imagine
registration.
that. See?
That's
The simplest traffic stop will open up the multitude of criminal activity doors.
Quite a few of our offenders come from traffic stops.
Correct.
Yeah, we got to
And-
call them and see if they want
Yeah.
to take them in or not.
Yeah.
And it can be as simple as, you know,
Wow.
you're doing 82 in a 55, right? And they pull you over and they're like, hey, what's that on the seat next to you? And it's a bag of methamphetamine. Then it becomes a felony, and then it becomes to us after
Or
that,
they're on
right?
probation and
Yeah.
we've caught them with something else, a new crime. We call them and they're like, yeah, let's pull them in and you hang on to them and we'll charge them with the new crime.
DUI is the biggest one, perhaps. So when someone who's on probation or parole gets stopped and run by law enforcement, it triggers, it's called a DONS hit, the Dangerous Offender Notification System. And that DONS hit 24 hours comes to an employee of parole and probation. And during the day, that's going to be here in Las Vegas. It's run by our office. At night, it's going to be an on-call officer, right? Or a dispatcher, because the dispatchers are trained in how to respond to these things. Again, civilian employees, incredibly helpful to us. So we respond and say, yes, hold that person, or no, don't hold that person. And it's 24/7. Every person that's on supervision is in this system. And we say, and if it's egregious enough, like a DUI, for example, which is one of the DUI is an automatic hold for us. So if you get stopped, even as a .09, if you're legally intoxicated, you're not only going to jail for your DUI, which is 12, 24-hour hold, whatever that might be, then you're going to be there for 2 weeks before you see your sentencing judge, and you have to answer as to why you picked up a new crime, albeit a misdemeanor in most cases. on probation.
Habitual offender.
And there are
2 weeks.
Oh yeah. So you have to see a judge by law within 15 days of the arrest for violation of probation, right? Parole is even worse in that if we choose to violate your parole, which for DUI, yes we are, you have to go back to the prison, and that can
Finish
be
your sentence.
30, 45, 60 days before you see the parole board. So you're in prison for 60, sometimes longer than that, before you even get a hearing.
Before you even get a hearing.
Yeah,
Pays to stay out of trouble.
Yep.
that's it.
That's
Just
the
do what they ask.
Pays to
Just
stay
do
out
it.
of trouble.
Do as they ask. That's all you
Yeah.
have to do.
Smokes, you know what I'm saying?
Abide by the law.
Right.
So, yep.
Wow. I don't even know what to say. Look at this.
beautiful
cars.
out there, isn't it?
This is a great picture.
And that's those ghost markings.
Right.
Yes.
You can kind of see them a little bit on there.
They're definitely blown past
But
that.
what we want the
130.
public
yeah.
to know is that we're always hiring for Nevada Highway Patrol state troopers, parole and probation. We have different divisions. You know, we got state fire marshal, a governor's dignitary protection, Nevada Division of Investigation, and these are different ones that you can branch out to later on, even commercial enforcement. These are some of the smaller ones like K9 units and all that other
Motors.
stuff. But if you're looking to get into law enforcement, we're always hiring for parole and probation, Nevada Highway Patrol. Go to nevadastatepolice.com. Look at the links. We also have administrative and dispatcher positions always open. And if, like we always bring up, if you always want to be in law enforcement, but don't want to be a law enforcement officer, you can come work with us on the civilian side, and we'll get you plugged in. And those looking to do lateral moves, or you're thinking about just getting out of the military, they got that bridge program, and you can start with us 6 months prior to you getting out of the military. So that's something that you'll have to check with our recruiter on. And if you're an officer in the state, smaller town here in the state of Nevada or across the country looking at a lateral, we do lateral academies also, so that's something to look at. But we want people of Nevada's finest to be one of Nevada's finest out here, so check us out and go to nevadastatepolice.com.
And for your department, you get the same pay extra if they're in your division, if you do things and all that type of stuff, right?
No, because when Nevada put together the law that says what a trooper does, they included commercial enforcement as part of their primary duties. So unlike motors, unlike investigations, we're not paid extra. The people that do the job that I do it because they want to. This is a passion for them.
So it's the same pay as the regular.
Oh yeah, we're regular
right.
troops,
Okay,
so we get
okay.
all the same pay and benefits. We don't get any additional pay
Yeah.
for specialized duties, unlike motors or traffic homicide unit. I'm sure you guys with your
K9,
K9s, things like that.
Right.
But we are troopers first, who then are assigned to commercial enforcement. Much like motors are troopers who are just assigned to motorcycles, K9s are troopers who have a dog. Traffic homicide unit are troopers who then work that. They have specialty task force too that work with Metro, ATF, FBI, Homeland Security, and Marshals Task Force. You know, criminal apprehension, and these guys have. It's very tempting to look at them as I get a little bit older and I don't feel like being out in the hot and the cold as much. They have some fantastic task force that after you do your time, because you have to come here and learn the job first, right? You have to be a good cop. And then you can go and do all the fun things. And I've had no shortage of things that I've been included in and had the opportunity to do. I've been the firearms instructor, radar instructor, motor cop. I've been in commercial enforcement. And I'm just tickled to death to be right where I am. I couldn't be happier to be here.
Yeah. To hear someone that is a sergeant like yourself, right, and say, I just can't wait till I am finished. You know what I mean? Like I have a year left, or I have 6 months left, or you know what I mean. And let me tell you something: when I'm done, I'm going fishing. Right? You know, to be a sergeant or a higher-ranking officer, right, doesn't diminish a lower-ranking officer, except that you might have other responsibilities that could be taxing on your brain that would make you say, this is not what I want to do. But we've never had anybody come on here and say, oh, I can't wait. You know what I mean? Like I have 3 months left. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody that comes here, you know, I mean, Sergeant Donaldson was here the last week, and he was so excited to tell people that when you speed, you're going beyond the headlights. You know, and so
One of the things about promoting, your responsibilities change, of course, right? I have to supervise officers and keep them safe. You supervise troopers, keep them safe, right? But at the end of the day, you're still wearing a gun and a badge. It is still your responsibility to handle business when business comes about, right? And sometimes, like if you're a major or a lieutenant colonel, even the chief, right? You might be wearing a suit and tie, for example. I saw one of our captains on the side of the road with his lights flipped on, in his dress pants, dress shirt, tie, yellow safety vest, and state police on back with a crash. It happens. When I was in the academy, I don't remember who the colonel was back then, the colonel of the Highway Patrol in 2012, but he got into a traffic stop, which then turned into a use of force on the side of, it was 395 back then, up between Lake Tahoe or Carson City and Reno, where he's in a fight with a guy on the side of the road as the colonel of the Highway Patrol. It can happen, right? He chose to make a stop. If Major Honey makes a stop, anything could happen, right? So you got to be ready at all times as a supervisor, because it's still the job, at the end of the day, of a law enforcement officer. You are that line employee. You are also the colonel. It's your job.
we had Colonel Carpenter come on, and she explained when she was on here that when she was in her patrol car driving to work, that someone decided to not only cut in front of her, but to give her very foul language in the sign language of a finger. You know what I mean? And rolled down the window and tried to be very abrupt. And at that time, she said, doesn't matter. Like I'm part of the state police, colonel, no colonel, and I had to explain to the person that this is not the correct procedures. And so again, the leadership of the Nevada State Police, you know what I mean, is there for the community, and that leadership comes down from the top, and that everyone feels it.
And we're like family, Neil. I mean, but we're very close knit. There's not a lot of troopers throughout the state of Nevada. And like I said, the majority of troopers know everybody and know their families, and they work closely together. So, and I do like that, being a smaller department. And like I tell a lot of people that watch the show, we go 1041, which is our hitting on our duty in our driveway, and we hit 1042 in our driveway. So the minute we hit on work, we got our own office. Nobody else uses our office, which is our cars. And you get to set it up primarily the way you want. I mean, there's certain things that you can't change, but you get to set it up where you want your mics and all this stuff, or a radar system put. But it's your own vehicle. And we've talked about this the last show too, is that, you work for a big agency. I worked for a big agency before where you had to get there early to try to find out who had the best cars, and then you had to unload all your stuff. And not only that, you had to drive into work. You're wasting an hour before and an hour after, and you're putting all that stuff in, and then you still have to have a briefing and all this stuff. So you have to get there early. And here, we just go right to work, and we're out there. And all of our guys, we can always entrust that if we need help or we need some kind of education that we're not familiar with, or something that comes about, we always have somebody to call. There's always somebody to assist us, which is a good thing. And there's always somebody that's been on a little bit longer, that knowledge. I thought, when I went through the academy in Grand Island in Nebraska, I worked in Omaha, and they said you'll see everything from homicides, pursuits, everything within the first 5-6 months, which they were right. And then you get on like 5 years and you think you've seen everything. Oh, I know everything in law enforcement. Yep. Trust me, I always call my sergeant saying, hey, Sarge, what are we going to do about this? Because I've never ran into this. And it happens in law enforcement. No matter how much you come exposed to stuff, there's something off the wall that always, and that's what's great about the job too. Let me tell you, it's not, putting little widgets in and doing the same thing every day. Every day is different. It's not routine. They call some of these traffic stops routine. They're not routine. We're doing what we have to, but every stop is different, and you're going to meet different people. You're going to have different things happen, but the job brings so much to us. At least for me, I enjoyed it. A lot of times our dispatch used to check me all the time. I'd be on a stop, and I'd be BSing with the person I pulled over on the side of the road.
You?
We'd just be talking the whole time. So
I didn't think you talked very much.
Oh yeah. So I try not to, but yeah, they'd have to check for my safety, which we love our dispatchers because they're checking, every 10 minutes or whatever, make sure that you're safe, and if they need to send somebody out and
you're like,
they're
I'm
our
just asking the
lifeline.
guy how lunch was.
Yeah, we're just going over everything. I've been invited to go fishing and everything, even though they got a ticket. You don't have to be the hard guy. Of course, even if they get a ticket, as long as you explain everything why it's done, people respect that a little bit more. You know what I mean? So the ones that come with an attitude and all this stuff and they want to argue, arguing is not at the traffic stop. That's for court. That's what court's for. So sometimes you just got to educate people, and that's one of the reasons that we do this show, is so people realize what goes on with law enforcement around the valley. So
I think it's key. Dispatch is one of our unspoken heroes. We hear them through the radio, and the key is them listening to us. I love listening to them. You'll hear a troop call out. If you work with the same people every day, you listen to their voice, and you know what's going on just by the sound of their voice. And we'll hear it, and then I love it when dispatch catches it too. Do you need another unit? Or they'll just start somebody. Or you'll hear somebody just say, I'll be en route to so-and-so, because they've heard something in their voice that they normally don't hear. When you work with the same people every day, and you just never know. I hear people make traffic stops. It's like, okay, what could be going on? And then it's like, I didn't like the sound of that. I'm going to head his way. Or they're in a bad area. That's a high crash zone once you start to interfere with the flow of traffic. So you go and you start to help them. And then as soon as they're good, I'm out of here and I'll go find something else to do. That's what I love about the job is I've worked in 2 different states. I've worked in multiple different units, and it just never bores me. I'll have days of repetitive tasks, being more administrative now than I've ever been. It gets kind of boring. But this morning, before I came to the show, I took the opportunity to go out and do a little bit of work, just get back out on the road and interact with troops that I haven't seen in a while.
When we had Miss Stevenson on, she said that she used to hear from the dispatch, and she would hear their voice, and she would know exactly who it is, and exactly what it is that you described. That like that something would be like, not speaking in the right term, or you know what I mean, and she'd be like, okay, something's not right here.
I was on the job I had cleared FTO. I was sent to Prim as my first duty station. We had done the bid, so I'm down there like my first Sunday morning. I make a traffic stop on a gentleman. Things aren't right. I get him out of the car. I go to detain him, and he jumps, and we start fighting. And we're laying in the number 3 lane of the interstate, brawling. And all I could do is click the radio and said code red, which is our emergency tone. And then it was back to the fight, and I'm trying to tase him. I'm trying to cuff him. We're slugging it. I'm trying to get out of the highway so I don't get run over. And I can hear dispatch because I have an earpiece, and I can hear dispatch going, what unit was that? And then I hear them, they're smart enough, they like, hey, there's only a couple units on a traffic stop. So they start pulling up the road cameras. And then I hear in my ear, 407, which is my bad number, I can see you, we have help coming. And I'm fighting with this guy still. We're still slugging out on the side of the road. I've tased him, we're rolling, I've got one handcuff on, I'm trying to get the other one on, and he's punching me and I'm punching him, and then in my ear I hear, we see you, we have help coming. And that's a very powerful thing.
We got to go to the old headquarters for the war room.
Oh yes, that's an awesome.
And look down.
If I was colonel, that would be my office.
Yeah,
I would
100%.
Take it over. I would too. That's awesome.
It was amazing.
It is.
You know what I mean? And we always talk about the dispatch. They had the gentleman who was the sergeant of the dispatch or whatever, the gentleman, right? And so he had a phone here, he had a phone here, he had the head posts on, he had 6 computers, he's typing, who knows what's going on, you know what I'm saying? But he knew what he was doing, and so the most interesting thing was that we weren't allowed to talk to him. Right? This was when we got to look around and all this type of stuff, and so we got to go down into that area to look, and they had the fast people to the left and the dispatchers to the right, and they said, and I go, because Johnny and I were there, we had our little camera and thing, can't we just go and you are not allowed to talk to them.
Right.
Like,
And you
Don't-
can't
don't-
film them because there's private information
right?
on the
Like,
cameras
don't talk
and
to
all that.
them. Don't.
That's our
don't look.
lifeline.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
but it was very interesting because you see all of these cameras, and normally you see them in like from the city or you know what I mean, whatever it might be. But in this particular instance, it was great to see that they see everything.
They do.
They do, and they can pull it up. They
You know
got
what I
like
mean?
And they'll
you've
watch
seen it like 20 different
Yeah, they had
screens.
that big
and
monitor.
they can
right
blow
there,
it up
right.
to, you know what I mean? They can almost zoom into your watch. It's so fantastic. Some of the cameras in town, they got it every major interstate in
They'll
in
do just
section
like
in
you've
town.
done. They'll take one picture and they'll put it over 6 or 7 screens so they can see what's going on.
And it's
Or they'll-
filming the whole time.
Yeah,
and
or they'll
recording.
shrink them down and they'll have 100 cameras up, looking at everything. Get a crash, they'll pull it up, and you can watch it. And that's what'll happen is command will go down there on a big event and they'll pull things up and they'll watch it from afar so they can see what is going on.
Yeah, it was really amazing.
Technology is
you know what
amazing.
I mean? All right, let's see what else we got.
That's it.
Sergeant Key, you know what that means?
What that means?
Yeah,
Does that mean the end of the show?
right.
We
Smart
don't
man.
like that.
We'll add another thing to your repertoire. You know what I'm saying? In the special things that you do. You know what I mean?
That's actually my academy class.
Oh wow.
Well, that's great.
77. Yep,
Yeah.
that's my
Really?
group.
Are you in
That's
there?
my group. I'm off to the left. Trooper Simmons is the far left.
Yeah.
Stage left there. I'm a couple people down from him, but
Well, we
yeah,
gotta fix
that's
that
my
picture.
academy group. Almost all those guys are still here.
Yeah. We'll have to get you on there. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Sergeant Keen, we appreciate obviously you going to the Channel 13 and all that type of stuff. You know what I mean? And then coming here and explaining. People need to know that you're there and that you have a team, and that team is out there and they're, trying to do everything that they can to make sure that our roadways are always safe. And you're doing everything you can. So I open the floor to you for some final thoughts.
Thank you. The commercial enforcement team is their unsung heroes, and that's, you've seen Michelle, who started out as our administrative assistant, who was, as we called, the chief of staff. She kept the office running. She educated herself and moved into a CVSI spot, and now is part of that team, at the roadside doing things. We have troopers that are just phenomenal cops that want to do something more, so they come to commercial. Commercial is an incredible, dynamic group of people. They're from all walks of life, all ages. They're wonderful folks. They work very, very hard to keep our roads safe, as all troopers do. We could talk about it. I've met some of the parole and probation folks, and they're fantastic people. They're just like me. I don't know them, but I know them. I know what cops are. I know what a cop looks like, talks like, acts like. I can predict them. We have a fantastic group of people that work in Southern Nevada. We're short-staffed. We need people to come help us. This is our community, and I take responsibility for my community. Even being, I am battle-born. I'm from here. I moved away and came back. This is my home. This is where I live. And I will do whatever I can to keep it safe.
And someone has to be, let's just go over one more thing before we end this. So someone has to become a trooper or parole and probation.
Correct.
Right? So someone has no experience whatsoever, right? So they do that.
Yep.
And if they want to be a sworn officer.
Correct.
Right? And then after they are doing this for some time and they get some years
and
of
experience.
training and experience, at that time, the opportunity could arise.
Could. Yep.
And at that time, then maybe you, but the team or however it's done, right? Hand selects the people that are part of the team.
Correct. We want the best people. It's easy to teach people to do anything. I mean, they taught me to ride a motorcycle. They taught me to inspect trucks. If they could teach me, you can teach anybody. But it's the right personality. It's that hard work, the dedication, service above self, duty, honor, country. I was in the United States Army, duty, honor, country. That's the folks we're looking for. People who are willing to realize that there's something bigger than us out there, and that if we all work toward that goal and do our small part, the machine works.
Yeah. Sergeant Clifton, no Mustangs, no horses this week.
Not
Yeah.
this week. No, it's
You
okay.
know what I mean? No, no funny stuff. We have to get that video.
We do
Right.
got to get it. We do
We gotta
gotta
get that
get
video.
that done.
and,
Yeah.
the thing is that with what it is that you do, and the people that are underneath you and on top of you and doing all these things, you are a vital role to keep the city safe from sometimes people that need a little bit of extra encouragement.
It's one of those things that people don't really understand, right? So they see the beat cops, Metro, Highway, Northtown, whatever, right? And they know about judges, but that's only 2/3 of the wheel, right? It's the wheel is 3 pieces. You have your arrest, your sentencing, and your sentence serving, conviction, probation, parole, right? It's a whole circle. We all play a part. State police is 2/3 of that. We're not the judiciary, obviously, but we're the before and the after. And both agencies, and inclusive to our other agencies too, NDI and Fire Marshal and such, it's critical to making the state safe and making our cities safe, or even our rural areas, right? We have officers in rural Nevada, and I could never do that because you're supervising your neighbors. That's tough. Being a
It is
trooper
tough
out there
'cause
might be a
it's
little easier
Not
because
many people out there.
Yeah.
But I
Absolutely.
mean, if you live in, I don't know, say Ely, right? How many people live in Ely? 2,000?
What about Bunkerville? 800 people.
Bunkerville?
I live
Absolutely,
there.
right? So we had, for years, we had officers who lived out in Mawapa or Mesquite or Bunkerville, right? Like, there was Officer Hymus many moons ago.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then Officer Trimming after him. They both lived out there. And you're supervising your neighbors, right? Imagine that for a second, right? I couldn't do that. I like living in the big city and being kind of anonymous, and that's fine with me. But that's a tough sell. But we're all important. We all play a part, right? To make things move, we have to be part of the wheel here, right? And it's just something people don't really know. They just think, oh, you get arrested, you go to jail, and that's the end of the story. That's the beginning of the story.
Right.
So
And they don't want to end up on the wrong side. Not to say specifically with you, but they don't want to end up on the opposite side where you have to make sometimes
even if
sometimes
you just
tough
make a
choice.
bad choice and you get caught by the Mustang over there doing 112, and he chooses to arrest you, right? Because he can. If you're doing 112, you can get arrested and towed.
Yeah.
And what kind of penalties does that carry?
Well, right now it's because of the jails are pretty
Yeah.
full right now.
Yeah.
It might be what they call a walkthrough, but you're still going to look at reckless driving because if I arrest you, it's going to be a reckless driving charge. That's $1,240 fine and 8 points off your license. You got to understand your license is only 12 points, so I'm taking 8 of those. Now you're looking at your insurance going up because the insurance gets notified. Reckless driving, that's one of the worst things you can have on your insurance. So you don't need something like that. And do we really have time to be trying to take you to jail for reckless driving when there's much worse things out there like felony drunks or stuff going on all over around the valley? But we will do it if we have to, because if you put other people's lives in danger, you're not only endangering yourself, but you're endangering that mom that's taking their kids to school, or there's all types of examples we can give. You're putting their lives in danger, and whether there's serious injury or death. And if it becomes a death, guess what? You're going to be meeting this gentleman over here, and you don't know how much time you're going to get, and especially if it's a child or something, or a family going to school or just going to the grocery store, and you choose to be reckless and selfless act and go before a judge and then try to say, oh, well, I was late to go somewhere, or I just chose to drive that way. You think that's going to go well with the jury or a judge? I don't think so.
Nope.
So then you're going to be looking at time in prison, and you're going to end up losing everything.
How long is a walkthrough?
Usually, if
I mean,
you're
still
if you're
to be
DUI,
arrested, handcuffed,
Yeah.
driven down to the
Transported.
station,
Yep.
booked.
it's going to be 6 or 8
fingerprint.
hours probably. I'm assuming because even being a drunk,
I was going to say 12 hours.
Yeah, DUI. Well, DUIs are automatic 12. So once you get to the jail, you're going to be on a 12-hour hold because they got to make sure that you're sober and you know what you're signing for, and they want to make sure if somebody picks you up, or if you choose to, well, they're not going to let you drive even after that. You could probably get picked up, but they want to make sure that you're not intoxicated when you're leaving that jail. So you got an automatic 12-hour hold once you get to the jail. That's not the hour or something to get there, or cleaning up the crash that you caused. So it's time consuming, and I'm just giving a rough estimate. It might be 4 to 6 hours, because who knows if that trooper has to finish a crash, or if another trooper is going to transport you, and then you got to sit in there, and you don't know how busy the jail is. Then you got booking. They got to write their arrest reports. There's so much that goes into it, and then before they can get your shots and all that, that might be a couple hours, and before you know it, there's 4 or 5 hours, of your time, and your car's towed.
I'll tell you,
mean,
Verticals,
yeah.
they have a new show now. It's called Jail. Have you guys seen it? And it films here in Las Vegas.
He loves these shows. They got PD cam too.
They do.
Okay.
But now they show what happens when you go there, and they show all these people, and they're there, and they show you inside of a cell, and there's like a bench here and a bench here, and there's people curled up in a ball sleeping on the thing, you know what I mean? And then they showed like one guy was sleeping on the floor, and then another guy, he sort of curled up to him, you know what I mean? And they get in a fight.
But you know what? It's probably pretty good that they show this.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
people
so
don't realize, and this is one of the reasons that we do this show, is not only to bring you into the lives of the Nevada State Police and all of our divisions and what goes on in our valley, and we discuss a lot of things that people don't even know about. No, I would have never heard about the thermal imaging van until I got educated on it. Yeah. But these are the things that people need to realize, and I'm glad that they put those shows out there, because it shows how horrible it is. There's nothing worse that, you're not. Let's say that you have a high-paying job and you get arrested for DUI, and then you got to worry about it going public. It's in the newspaper. Your neighbors know about it. It's on TV or whatever. And then you get in this jail. These aren't all the people that maybe you're a working class person. You got homeless people in there. You got people, the smells in there are so bad. And people that are just not the people that you'd probably take home to mom and hang out with, right? That's the kind of settings you're going to be in. And I'm so glad that they do put that on TV, because that kind of tells people, hey, there's consequences to everything, right? If you do something wrong, there's always some kind of consequence that you have to pay for down the road. Whether you get caught or not caught, there's always a potential later down the road that you will get caught. That's what I kind of wanted to say there.
And it was horrible.
Oh, it's terrible.
You watch this thing for 30 minutes and you're like, I'm never going to.
So I think collectively, the three of us have been in jail more than most people ever will be, right? Like, but I can't speak for the two of them because they have more experience than I have years alive. But
okay, look, he's trying to make himself young.
Yeah,
but that's okay. That's
Or
okay.
make us old.
With parole probation, we end up having to go to the jails, and we get locked into cells with people, right? And it does smell, but it is an eerie and not fun feeling when that door just
So what happens? So it shuts behind you.
It shuts
done.
And to get out, I got to push a button and have a CO come unlock it for me.
But I got you beat. I worked at a
state
prison.
He worked at a prison
for a year and a half.
No deal.
And that's. But you know what? You get very educated. My searches were phenomenal. It made me a better person. I knew the mind games that convicts and inmates. There's a difference. Inmates are only there for a short time. Convicts are there for a long time. Yeah. You learn all the games, all the things that go, the practices within the prison, because they're in our own society. When you're in there, you're living with. I'm doing prison time. The only thing is, I get to leave at night. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
I'm
That's
doing
what that's what they say.
Yeah. So when I became a deputy in a metropolitan area, I dealt with some of these people again out on the roadways, but I also knew how to interact with people so much better, because I worked in that prison environment before, and it just made me a better person, and it opened me up to be a better cop too, realizing all the different things that you had to do, all the games that were played, how to search people right. Because I mean, search is a big thing in prison. I'm telling you, they are masters of getting things in and out. So, but once you learn that, you really do become a better a cop. But also, if you go to these big cities like Los Angeles, if you want to work for the sheriff's office, you got to work 4 or 5 years in the jail first, because that before you even go to the road patrol. And that's for a lot of major cities, even in New York, for a lot of places. But that just makes you a better person. That's just my view. I mean, some people never want to work in jails or prison, but I tell you what, it did make me a better person overall for a cop. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yep.
Gentlemen, fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right,
sir.
let's turn right here and we'll wave goodbye, okay? See you later.
Bye.
Take care, guys.